The great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with the sound of 1,000 different voices. Beings from across the galaxy sat in their floating chairs, their bodies coming in every shape and size imaginable. Some looked like giant insects with crystal wings. Others appeared as living clouds of gas that spoke through mechanical devices. The most common were the tall, gray-skinned vegans who thought themselves the race in the galaxy. Commander stood at the center of the hall. His blue skin glowed softly under the bright lights as he prepared to give his monthly report. The hegemony had put him in charge of watching the outer rim worlds, the places where primitive species lived before they learned to travel between stars. "Today we discuss the Sol system," he announced, his voice carrying clearly through the hall. A large screen appeared above him, showing a small yellow star with 9 planets circling it. The third planet, called Earth by its inhabitants, continues to send strange signals into space. Laughter rippled through the hall. The beings here had seen many primitive worlds before. Most sent out simple radio waves begging for contact or help. Earth was different, and that difference amused them greatly. "Show us their latest transmission," called out Ambassador from the vegan collective. His long, thin fingers drummed against his chair as he waited to be entertained. The screen changed to show moving pictures from Earth. A single human male fought against an army of monsters, using only simple weapons and his bare hands. The human refused to give up even when hurt badly. He kept fighting until every enemy was destroyed. The hall exploded with laughter. Beings slapped their appendages together in their version of clapping. The crystalline architects made musical sounds that passed for chuckling among their kind. "They believe one of them can defeat thousands," wheezed Ambassador, his gray face turning purple with amusement. "How wonderfully delusional." Waited for the noise to die down before showing the next image. This time it showed humans fighting gods, beings of incredible power. Again, the humans won through determination and cleverness. The laughter grew even louder. "Their entertainment tells the same story over and over," explained. "Humans facing impossible odds and somehow winning. They seem obsessed with the idea that they never surrender, never give up, always find a way." A new voice spoke up from the back of the hall. Dr. Ara was the galaxy's leading expert on alien minds. She studied how different species thought and acted. Her green skin marked her as one of the peaceful harmony people. "I have studied their transmissions for 3 years," she said, floating forward in her chair. "These humans tell themselves stories about being warriors, but their technology suggests otherwise. They still use chemical rockets to leave their planet. Their fastest ships would take thousands of years to reach even their nearest star." More laughter filled the hall. The idea of using chemical rockets seemed as primitive as hitting rocks together to make fire. "What do they fight their wars with?" asked General Or of the Dominion Navy. His massive frame was covered in natural armor plates, and his 4 arms ended in claws that could tear through metal. "Chemical explosives and metal projectiles," Dr. Ara replied. "Their largest weapons could barely destroy a city. Their biggest warships are smaller than our patrol boats, yet their stories show them conquering galaxies and defeating beings like gods." The general's booming laughter shook the hall. Primitives dreaming of being warriors, how precious. Brought up more examples. Humans told stories about ordinary people becoming heroes with incredible powers. They made films about soldiers who could not be stopped, no matter how many enemies they faced. They created games where players fought against overwhelming numbers and always found a way to win. "The pattern is clear," Dr. Ara continued. "This species has developed what I call heroic delusion syndrome. They cannot accept that some fights cannot be won, so they create fantasy stories where the impossible becomes possible." "Is this dangerous?" asked one of the cloud beings through its speaker device. "Hardly," replied Ambassador. "They are stuck on one planet with primitive technology. Even if every human decided to become a warrior tomorrow, they could not threaten anyone beyond their own world. The council members nodded in agreement. They had seen many aggressive species before. Most destroyed themselves with wars before they learned to travel between stars. The few that survived usually became peaceful once they met more advanced civilizations. Their population is growing, Dr. Ara noted. Nearly 8 billion individuals now live on Earth. Their industrial capacity is expanding rapidly. But again, all of this means nothing without faster-than-light travel, which they show no signs of developing, added. Our scientists estimate they are at least 300 years away from creating even basic star drives. General Orr leaned back in his chair. What do you recommend we do about them? Continue monitoring, suggested Dr. Ara. Their signals provide excellent entertainment value. I propose we compile their best stories for distribution as comedy material throughout the galaxy. This suggestion brought fresh waves of laughter. The idea of sharing human, heroic fantasies as jokes appealed to everyone present. I see no harm in this, declared the council leader, an ancient being whose species was older than most stars. Let them dream their impossible dreams. Reality will teach them humility when they finally reach for the stars and discover how small they truly are. The session was ending when a junior analyst raised his hand. Sir, we detected some unusual energy readings from the outer Sol system. Should we investigate? Waved dismissively. Probably solar flares or asteroid impacts. Nothing a primitive species could create would register on our deep space sensors. File it as natural phenomena, ordered the council leader, and reduce monitoring of the Sol system to quarterly reports. We have more important matters to attend to than watching primitives play pretend. As the great hall emptied, Dr. Ara remained in her chair, staring at the image of Earth still displayed on the screen. Something about the human stories bothered her, though she could not say what. Their tales were too detailed, too consistent, too focused on specific types of conflict. But the decision was made. Earth would remain a curiosity, a source of amusement for advanced civilizations who had forgotten what it meant to fight for survival. The galaxy would continue to laugh at human legends of impossible victories and unconquerable spirits. None of them suspected that Earth had been listening to their transmissions for decades, learning about the galaxy while the galaxy laughed at them. None of them imagined that human fantasies might actually be preparation for something far more real than entertainment. 3 years had passed since the Galactic Council's last meeting about Earth. Dr. Ara sat in her research station, surrounded by screens showing data from the Sol system. What she saw made her skin change from green to a worried yellow color. The human transmissions had changed. Gone were the simple stories of heroes fighting monsters. In their place came darker tales, more complex stories, more realistic battles. The humans were no longer making entertainment about single warriors defeating armies. Now their stories showed team tactics, strategic thinking, and detailed military planning. Dr. Ara played the latest transmission. A human film showed soldiers working together in perfect coordination. They used hand signals, advanced communication, and battle plans that would impress even Dominion military commanders. The weapons were still primitive by galactic standards, but the way humans used them showed deep understanding of warfare. Computer, analyze the tactical content of these transmissions, she commanded. The artificial intelligence worked for several minutes before responding. The scenarios presented show knowledge of advanced military strategies including multi-vector assault patterns, resource denial tactics, psychological warfare techniques, and adaptive battle planning. These concepts are typically developed by species with centuries of spacefaring military experience. Dr. Ara's yellow skin darkened to orange. This was impossible. Humans were supposed to be primitives stuck on one planet. How could they know strategies that took most species hundreds of years to develop? She accessed older files and began comparing. The change had been gradual but steady. Early human entertainment showed individual heroics and simple good versus evil stories. But year by year, the content became more sophisticated. The humans were learning, adapting, evolving their understanding of conflict. More troubling were the leaked military transmissions she had detected. Human soldiers were training with exercises that seemed unnecessarily brutal. They practiced fighting in environments that did not exist on Earth's zero gravity, toxic atmospheres, extreme temperatures. Why would a species that had never left its home planet train for conditions they would never face? The communication logs showed another disturbing pattern. Human military leaders were studying conflicts between other species. Somehow, they had gained access to historical data about galactic wars and were analyzing the tactics used. They studied every victory, every defeat, every clever strategy that had ever been used in space combat. Dr. Ara tried to access human computer networks directly, but found them surprisingly well defended. Primitive chemical rocket technology but advanced cybersecurity. Simple metal weapons but complex encryption systems. It made no sense. She scheduled an emergency meeting with the Galactic Council to share her findings. 2 weeks later, she stood before the same hall where she had first presented her analysis of human delusions. The floating chairs held the same beings, though they looked bored. Commander was not even paying attention, instead reading reports about border disputes with aggressive species. "Honored Council," Dr. Ara began, "I must update my previous assessment of the human species. Their behavior has changed dramatically." "Changed how?" asked Ambassador without looking up from his own reading material. "Are they finally ready to join civilized society?" "That is what concerns me," Dr. Ara replied. "Their entertainment now shows advanced military knowledge. Their training exercises prepare them for conditions they have never encountered. They appear to be studying our historical conflicts and learning from them." This got General Orr's attention. His forearms stopped moving and his head turned toward her. "Explain." Dr. Ara activated the display screen. It showed human soldiers moving through training exercises that perfectly matched combat scenarios from the Hegemony War of 2 centuries ago. The humans performed maneuvers that had taken the galaxy's best military minds years to develop. "How did they learn these tactics?" she asked. "These are not things a primitive species should know." General Orr studied the images for several minutes. His expression grew serious. "These are indeed advanced techniques, but you said they still use chemical rockets." "Correct. No faster-than-light travel. No energy weapons. No advanced materials, but their tactical knowledge rivals our best military academies." Ambassador finally looked up from his reading. "Perhaps they intercepted some of our transmissions and learned from them." "That is my fear," Dr. Ara admitted. "If they have been listening to us, they know everything about our technology, our capabilities, our weaknesses." Laughter began to fill the hall again, though it was less enthusiastic than before. The council leader, ancient and wise, raised one appendage for silence. "Dr. Ara, you forget one crucial fact. Knowledge without capability is worthless. Even if humans know how to fight a space war, they have no spaceships to fight with. Even if they understand our weapons, they cannot build them. Theory means nothing without practice." "But what if they are practicing?" Dr. Ara pressed. "What if all their entertainment, all their training, all their study is preparation for something?" "Preparation for what?" demanded Ambassador. "They cannot reach the stars. They cannot threaten anyone beyond their own planet. Let them study all they want. Knowledge without power is just fantasy." Commander finally spoke up. "Dr. Ara raises valid points, but we must consider facts. Our long-range sensors show no signs of advanced technology in the Sol system. No energy signatures suggesting faster-than-light capability. No construction of large spacecraft. The humans remain as primitive as ever. What about those energy readings from the outer system 3 years ago? Dr. Ara asked. Solar activity, replied quickly. We investigated and found natural explanations for all anomalies. Dr. Ara felt her skin turning red with frustration. I request permission to send a probe to Sol system for direct observation, said the council leader. We have more pressing concerns. The Empire has been making threats again. Border worlds report increased military activity. We cannot waste resources investigating a species that poses no threat. I recommend we downgrade Earth monitoring to annual reports, suggested General Orr. If humans develop real space capability, we will detect it easily. Until then, they are not worth our attention. The council voted quickly. Dr. Ara's proposal was rejected by a huge majority. Earth monitoring would be reduced to basic scans once per year. The automated systems would alert them if anything significant changed. As the meeting ended, Dr. Ara gathered her material slowly. She was the expert on alien psychology, but nobody wanted to hear her warnings. The galaxy was too confident, too comfortable with their technological superiority. Walking back to her research station, she passed a communication array picking up signals from across the galaxy. For just a moment, she thought she detected something odd. A faint transmission from the direction of Sol system, but using technology she did not recognize. When she tried to focus on it, the signal was gone. Dr. Ara stopped and stared at the communication equipment. Could the humans have developed new technology without anyone noticing? The outer Sol system was far from Earth. If they were building something there, hidden behind gas giants and asteroid fields, would the galaxy's sensors even detect it? She made a decision. Even if the council would not listen, she would continue monitoring Earth closely. Her instincts told her that something was happening, something the galaxy was not prepared for. Humans were not just studying galactic warfare. They were preparing for it. The question was, preparing for what? Defense against invasion or something far more ambitious? In her private files, Dr. Ara began documenting every human transmission, every energy reading, every anomaly. If she was right about humans being more than they seemed, someone needed to be watching when the truth finally revealed itself. Dr. Ara was reviewing her daily reports when she noticed something that made her stomach feel cold. The communication board showed all active signals from across the galaxy, thousands of lights representing different worlds and species. But one light that had been burning steadily for years was now dark. Sol system had gone silent. She checked her equipment 3 times, thinking there must be a mistake. For decades, Earth had been sending out constant radio signals. Movies, television shows, military communications, civilian chatter, a steady stream of transmissions that painted a picture of a busy, growing civilization. Now there was nothing. Computer, when did transmissions from Sol system cease? She asked. Transmissions ended 2.7 standard days ago. The cessation was gradual over a 6-hour period, then complete silence. Dr. Ara felt her skin turning yellow with worry. Species did not just stop transmitting unless something terrible had happened. War, natural disaster, or worse, complete destruction. She immediately sent a priority message to Commander, requesting permission to investigate. The response came back 2 hours later. Request: resources committed to situation. Monitor for resumption of signals. The situation. Dr. Ara had heard about the troubles brewing on the galactic border. The Empire was a collection of aggressive species that had been testing Confederation defenses for months. But surely, a complete communication blackout from an entire star system deserved some attention. Days passed with no word from Earth. Dr. Ara sent regular updates to the Council, but received only automated responses. The galaxy was focused elsewhere, and Earth's silence was filed away as a minor curiosity. 3 weeks after the transmission stopped, the Empire made their move. The attack came without warning. Bioships, living vessels grown rather than built, emerged from hyperspace near 3 Confederation border worlds. The ships looked like massive sea creatures with armored shells and weapons that fired living projectiles. Dr. Ara watched the emergency session of the Galactic Council from her research station. The Great Hall was in chaos as reports came in from the attacked worlds. "Prime has fallen," announced General Orr, his voice tight with anger. "They overwhelmed our defenses in 6 hours. Their weapons are unlike anything we have seen before." Commander looked pale as he read from his reports. "The bioships adapt to our attacks. Energy weapons that destroy one ship become less effective against the next. Kinetic weapons show similar reduction in effectiveness. It is as if their armor learns from each assault." "How is this possible?" demanded Ambassador. "Our intelligence said they had inferior technology." "They have been hiding their true capabilities," General Orr replied. "These bioships represent a complete evolution of their military doctrine. We estimate they have been developing this technology for decades while pretending to be less advanced." Dr. Ara listened with growing dread. They had hidden their true capabilities while studying Confederation military tactics. It sounded familiar, though she could not place why. The emergency session continued for hours as more reports arrived. Forces were pushing deeper into Confederation space than any enemy had ever managed. Their bioships seemed to anticipate every defensive strategy, countering moves before they were fully implemented. "We are authorizing the deployment of the Fifth Fleet," announced the Council leader. "General, or you have full command authority. Stop the advance at any cost." Dr. Ara tried to focus on the military crisis, but part of her mind kept returning to Earth's silence. The timing seemed too convenient. Just when the galaxy faced its biggest threat in centuries, the humans stopped talking. Was it coincidence or something else? She accessed her private files on human transmissions, looking for any clues she might have missed. The military training exercises, the tactical knowledge, the apparent study of galactic warfare. What if it had not been theoretical preparation but practical planning? "Computer, analyze the energy signatures detected from outer Sol system over the past 5 years. Look for patterns suggesting construction or industrial activity." The analysis took several hours. When the results appeared, Dr. Ara's skin turned bright orange with shock. Analysis complete. Energy signatures show consistent patterns suggesting large-scale industrial construction in the outer Sol system. Estimated construction volume, approximately 300 large structures, each measuring between 1 and 5 kilometers in length. 300 large structures, ships, it had to be ships. Dr. Ara ran to her communication console and sent an emergency message to the Council. The humans had been building something in secret while the galaxy laughed at their primitive technology. The silence from Earth was not destruction. It was preparation. But her message was lost in the flood of military communications. They had launched a second wave of attacks, this time targeting core Confederation worlds. General Orr was coordinating defensive fleets across a front spanning hundreds of light years. She tried calling Commander directly, but his staff said he was in emergency planning sessions and could not be disturbed. She sent urgent reports to every council member she could reach. Most were either fighting the advance or evacuating their home worlds. The galaxy was too busy fighting for its life to listen to warnings about humans. Dr. Ara watched the tactical displays showing forces advancing deeper into Confederation space. The bioships moved with purpose and intelligence, striking at weak points and avoiding strong defenses with knowledge that should have taken years to acquire. On the 6th day of the war, General Orr made a desperate decision. From his command ship above the embattled world of Nexus Prime, he authorized the use of planet-killer weapons against strongholds. The weapons fired, sending beams of pure destruction toward enemy positions. For a moment, it seemed like the tide might turn. Then the bioships began to adapt even to planet-killer technology, their armor changing to deflect the massive energy attacks. "This is impossible," General Orr growled during an emergency command conference. "Nothing adapts that quickly, nothing learns that fast." Dr. Ara sat alone in her station, surrounded by data about Earth's silence and the advance. Two impossible situations happening at the same time. Advanced bioships that could adapt to any weapon, appearing just when Earth stopped transmitting. Hidden construction in the Sol system, revealed just as the galaxy faced its greatest threat. Then the long-range sensors detected something that made her heart stop beating for a moment. Massive energy signatures were approaching from outside the galactic plane, ships running in complete silence, using no known faster-than-light technology. The signatures were unlike anything in the Confederation database, but their approach vector was clear. They were coming from the direction of Sol system. Dr. Ara tried to contact the military command, but her calls were blocked by emergency protocols. She could only watch as her sensors tracked the unknown ships moving toward the largest space battle in galactic history. 300 unknown vessels, each massive enough to register on sensors from incredible distances. Ships that moved like they had been designed by someone who understood exactly how space warfare should be conducted. Ships that were about to arrive in the middle of a fight between the Empire and the Galactic Confederation, with no one expecting them, and no one prepared for what they might do. Dr. Ara realized she was about to witness either the salvation or the doom of galactic civilization, and it was coming from the star system that the galaxy had dismissed as primitive and harmless. The human legends that everyone had mocked were about to become reality. The space around Nexus Prime was filled with the largest battle the galaxy had ever seen. Thousands of Confederation ships fought desperately against bio-vessels that adapted to every weapon fired at them. General Orr stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his forces slowly lose ground despite their best efforts. "Sir, the enemy has adapted to our plasma cannons," reported his weapons officer. "Effectiveness down to 30% and falling." "Switch to kinetic bombardment," the general ordered, though he knew it would only delay the inevitable. The bioships learned too quickly, evolved too fast. Soon they would be immune to everything the Confederation could throw at them. Dr. Ara watched from her research station, her skin bright orange with fear and anticipation. The unknown ships from Sol system were only minutes away from arriving at the battle zone. She had managed to get a message through to one junior officer on Orr's staff, but it had been dismissed as impossible nonsense. "Contact the general," she shouted into her communication device. "Tell him ships are approaching from Sol system. Tell him the humans are coming." But her warnings were lost in the chaos of battle. Every communication channel was filled with tactical reports, damage assessments, and calls for reinforcement. On the bridge of his flagship, General Orr was studying the tactical display when his sensor officer suddenly went rigid with shock. "Sir, I am detecting massive energy signatures approaching our position." "More reinforcements?" Orr asked, though part of him wondered how the situation could get any worse. "No, sir. The signatures are, unlike anything in our database, 300 vessels, each measuring between 1 and 5 kilometers in length. They are approaching from outside the galactic plane." General Orr turned to stare at his sensor officer. "That is impossible. Nothing that large could approach without our deep space networks detecting them days ago." "Sir, they appear to have been running in complete stealth until now. They are dropping out of. I cannot identify their faster-than-light system. It does not match any known technology." Before the general could respond, space itself seemed to tear open. 300 massive ships materialized in the middle of the battle zone without warning, without sound, without any of the energy flashes that usually accompanied faster-than-light travel. Every ship in the battle zone, Confederation and alike, stopped firing and stared. The new vessels were enormous, dwarfing even the largest Confederation dreadnoughts. They were angular and aggressive-looking, covered with weapon ports and armor that seemed designed by someone who had studied every space battle ever fought and decided to build the perfect warships. "Who are they?" whispered the weapons officer. General Orr was about to order his ships to assume defensive positions when the newcomers opened fire. But they did not target the Confederation fleet. Every weapon on every human ship focused on the bio-vessels. The weapons were like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Energy beams that somehow adapted faster than armor. Kinetic projectiles that phased through shields like they were not there. Missiles that moved with intelligence, dodging defensive fire and refusing to miss their targets. "Impossible," breathed General Orr as he watched bioships vessels that had been winning against the entire Confederation military explode under the newcomers' assault. "Those ships, they are fighting like their crews have trained for this exact battle their entire lives." Dr. Ara watched from her station as human ships moved through space with perfect precision. They did not fight like a species that had just learned space combat. They moved like people who had been dreaming about this moment for generations and finally had the chance to make their dreams real. The lead human vessel, larger than anything else in the battle zone, slowly turned toward General Orr's flagship. For a terrifying moment, the general thought they were about to be fired upon. Instead, his communication officer reported an incoming transmission. "Sir, we are receiving a signal from the unknown vessel. Audio only." "Put it through," Orr ordered, his voice barely steady. The voice that came through the speakers was calm, professional, and spoke perfect galactic standard. "This is Admiral of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet. We received your distress signals. Earth remembers its friends." General Orr stared at his communication officer in shock. "Terran, as in the Sol system, the primitive planet we have been monitoring." Admiral's voice continued, still calm despite the massive battle raging around her ship. "General Orr, we suggest you withdraw your forces to a safe distance. We will handle the threat." "Handle the threat," Orr sputtered. "There are thousands of vessels. Their bioships adapt to everything we fire at them." "We know," Admiral replied simply. "We have been studying technology for 3 years. We know exactly how their adaptive armor works, and we know how to defeat it." As if to prove her point, human ships began firing weapons that cycled through different types of energy and matter. The bioships tried to adapt, but before they could adjust to one attack type, the humans switched to another. The adaptation that made them nearly invincible against Confederation forces became useless against enemies who changed tactics faster than biology could evolve. "How?" General Orr asked weakly. "How do you know our language? How do you know about how do you have technology that makes our best ships look like toys?" "We have been listening, General," Admiral explained as her fleet systematically destroyed forces throughout the battle zone. "We have been learning, and we have been preparing." Dr. Ara felt her skin turning bright green as relief and vindication flooded through her. She had been right. The humans had not been primitive at all. They had been watching, studying, getting ready for the day when they would finally reveal themselves. "But your planet," General Orr protested. "Our sensors showed chemical rockets, primitive technology, no faster-than-light capability." "Your sensors showed what we wanted them to show," Admiral replied. "Humans are very good at misdirection, General. We have been building this fleet in the outer system where your sensors could not detect us. We used materials and methods that your technology would not recognize." The battle was ending faster than anyone thought possible. Bioships that had been winning against the entire Confederation military were being destroyed by the dozens. The adaptive armor that had made them seem invincible was useless against human weapons that seemed to anticipate every possible defense. "Surrender is not in nature," Admiral announced to both fleets. "They will fight until the last ship is destroyed. This battle will be over in approximately 2 hours." She was wrong. It took only 90 minutes. When the last vessel exploded under human fire, space fell silent except for the hum of engines and the crackle of communications. The Confederation fleet hung motionless, crews staring in amazement at the human ships that had just saved them from certain defeat. Admiral's voice came through the speakers again. "We need to talk. There are things about the galaxy that need to change." "Change?" the general asked weakly. "What kind of changes?" "We have been studying your history, your wars, your conflicts. Humans have a saying, those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. The Confederation has been repeating the same mistakes for centuries." Dr. Ara listened from her research station, finally understanding what she had seen in all those human transmissions. They had not been telling themselves heroic fantasies. They had been programming their entire species to think like the heroes in their stories. Every movie about impossible victories, every tale of never surrendering, every game about tactical combat had been preparation for this moment. General said carefully, "What exactly do you want?" The human fleet began forming up in perfect formation around the Confederation ships, not threatening, but unmistakably protective, like they were taking charge of something they intended to keep safe. "We want to make sure this kind of war never happens again," Admiral replied. "And we have some very specific ideas about how to make that happen." The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike any in the organization's 1,000-year history. Representatives who had fled their home worlds during the advance now sat in stunned silence as they tried to understand what had happened at Nexus Prime. Admiral stood at the center of the Great Hall, her simple gray uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate robes and ceremonial armor worn by galactic dignitaries. She looked perfectly calm, as if addressing the most powerful beings in the galaxy was something she did every day. "The Empire no longer exists," she announced in the same professional tone she had used during the battle. "Their fleet has been completely destroyed. Their home worlds have been quarantined until they can prove they no longer pose a threat to galactic peace." Ambassador leaned forward in his floating chair, his gray face pale with shock. "Quarantined? You mean you have occupied their entire territory?" "Secured," Admiral corrected. "We are not conquerors, Ambassador. We are peacekeepers. There is a difference." General, still recovering from the battle, raised one of his 4 arms. "Admiral, with all respect, how is this possible? 3 days ago, we had never heard of a Terran expeditionary fleet. Your planet was classified as primitive, barely capable of." Admiral turned to face him, and for the first time she smiled. "General, you are making the same mistake they made. You assumed that because we wanted you to see us as primitive, we actually were primitive." Dr. Ara, who had been hastily summoned to the emergency session, felt her skin turning bright blue with understanding. "You have been monitoring our communications all along." "For 67 years, Admiral confirmed. "Ever since we first detected radio transmissions from the Galactic Confederation. We learned your languages, studied your history, analyzed your technology, and watched your military tactics." "But why?" asked the council leader, his ancient voice shaking with confusion. "Why hide your true capabilities? Why pretend to be primitive?" Admiral walked to the center of the hall, her footsteps echoing in the shocked silence. "Because we needed to understand what we were dealing with. Humans have a saying, speak softly and carry a big stick. We spoke very softly while we built a very big stick." She gestured, and holographic displays appeared around the hall showing images of human shipyards hidden in the outer Sol system. Massive construction facilities that had been invisible to galactic sensors, protected by technology that made them look like asteroids and gas clouds. We studied every war you fought, every mistake you made, every weakness in your strategies. We learned from your defeats so we would never repeat them, and we prepared for the day when we might need to step in and fix problems you could not solve yourselves." Ambassador stood up angrily. "You speak as if we are children who need supervision." "You are," Admiral replied bluntly. "The war proves it. You faced an enemy using adaptive technology and could not develop effective countermeasures. You fought them for weeks with the same failed tactics over and over again. You were about to lose core worlds because you could not adapt quickly enough." "We would have found a solution eventually," General or protested. "Eventually was not good enough," Admiral said. "By the time you found a solution, millions would have died. Humans do not accept casualties that can be prevented." Dr. Ara spoke up from her position near the back of the hall. "Admiral, I studied your transmissions for years. Your entertainment, your stories, your games, they were all military training, were they not?" Admiral nodded approvingly. "Very good, Doctor. You were the only one who suspected the truth. Yes, everything we broadcast was designed to teach our people how to think strategically. Every movie about impossible victories was a lesson in creative problem-solving. Every story about never surrendering was training in determination and resilience. Every game about tactical combat was practice for real warfare." "Your entire species was preparing for war?" asked one of the cloud beings through its mechanical speaker. "Our entire species was preparing to keep the peace," Admiral corrected. "There is a difference. We studied galactic history and saw the pattern endless cycles of conflict because no one was strong enough or willing enough to impose order. We decided to become strong enough and willing enough." The council leader leaned forward in his ancient chair. "What do you want from us, Admiral? Conquest? Submission?" Admiral shook her head. "We want you to do what you should have been doing all along, maintaining peace and protecting innocent species. But since you have proven unable to do that effectively, Earth will be taking over those responsibilities." "Taking over," Ambassador spluttered. "You cannot simply decide to rule the galaxy." "We are not ruling," Admiral explained patiently. "We are protecting. There is a difference. You can keep your governments, your cultures, your independence, but there will be no more wars like the one you just fought. There will be no more species like the building secret armies while you ignore the threat. And there will be no more situations where peaceful worlds are destroyed because the galaxy cannot respond quickly enough." General or studied the human admiral carefully. "What makes you think you can succeed where we have failed?" "Because humans understand something the rest of you have forgotten," Admiral replied. "Peace is not the absence of conflict. Peace is what happens when those who would cause conflict know they cannot win." She gestured again, and the displays changed to show the human fleet. 300 massive warships, each one more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever produced. But more ships were visible in the background, thousands of them, still under construction in the hidden shipyards. "The galaxy will be protected," Admiral announced. "Species that want to live in peace will be left alone. Species that threaten others will be stopped. It is really very simple." "And if we refuse to accept this arrangement?" asked Ambassador. Admiral's expression did not change, but something in her eyes became very cold. "Then you will find out why humans tell so many stories about fighting against impossible odds. Because we are very, very good at making impossible odds work in our favor." Dr. Ara watched as the reality of the situation sank in throughout the hall. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations had just been told they were under new management by a species they had been mocking as primitive for years. "Admiral," the council leader said slowly, "assuming we agree to this arrangement, what happens to the Galactic Confederation?" "You continue to exist and function as before," Admiral replied. "But Earth will be establishing naval bases and key systems to ensure rapid response to future threats. Human advisors will work with your military forces to improve their effectiveness, and certain technologies will be shared to help you defend yourselves better. Shared technologies, general or asked with interest. Nothing that could be used for conquest, Admiral clarified. Defensive systems, medical advances, environmental protection methods, tools for building better civilizations, not better weapons. She looked around the hall at the assembled representatives. Humans have been watching you for decades. We have seen your potential. Most of you want peace, prosperity, and safety for your people. We are here to help you achieve those goals. And the ones who want war? Asked Dr. Ara. Admiral's smile returned, but it was not a pleasant expression. They will discover that humans take a very dim view of beings who threaten innocent people. Our stories may be about heroes, but they are also about what happens to villains who hurt others. The council leader was quiet for a long moment before speaking. You leave us little choice in this matter. You have the same choice everyone always has, Admiral replied. Live in peace or be stopped from disturbing the peace of others. Most species find the first option much more comfortable. As the emergency session ended, Dr. Ara remained in her chair, thinking about everything that had happened. The humans had not conquered the galaxy through force. They had conquered it through preparation, patience, and superior understanding of how to achieve their goals. She opened her files and began updating her assessment of human psychology. Her old conclusion, that humans suffered from heroic delusion syndrome, was completely wrong. Her new assessment read, humans do not tell stories about heroes because they dream of being heroic. They tell stories about heroes because they refuse to be anything else. This species has transformed their entire culture into a training program for producing the kinds of people who can make impossible things happen when necessary. She paused and added one final note. Previous recommendation to monitor humans as primitive curiosity is withdrawn. New recommendation. Be very grateful they consider us worth protecting. Above Earth, the human fleet continued its patrol routes, silent guardians watching over a galaxy that was finally learning what peace could look like when someone was strong enough to enforce it. And in the entertainment broadcasts from Earth, humans continued telling stories about heroes who never gave up, never surrendered, and always found a way to protect those who could not protect themselves. The galaxy had stopped laughing at human legends. Now they were living under their protection.